So, guys, welcome again. Welcome to my show, Conversations with Roland. If this is the first episode you're listening to, I want to say thank you and welcome. My name is Roland. My goal with these conversations is to celebrate the diversity of life, as I believe that we are here on earth, amazing, brave souls, infinite souls having a temporary experience designed to help consciousness or oneness or God experience multiple aspects of itself. And there are so many ways we can do it, and I'm really trying to introduce and celebrate these different ways on my show, and also expose you to some things that you might have never heard of, and discuss some things that you're curious about and want to find or listen to different people's perspectives on those things. I am also the author of the book Who and Why You Are, All You Need to Remember, which is currently available through my website or on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of your favorite e-reader platforms. But today, I'm really excited for my next guest. Her name is Audra Baker. Audra is a spiritual coach, and you can connect with her on Facebook. We'll have a link to that below. And you can really reach out to her, and she can work with you and your soul to help you heal in moderate ways. And these are things we're going to get into discussion about throughout this show. Just kind of understanding how Audra got into this practice and what her work currently entails. But I'm really happy that I met her. She's a beautiful soul, very intuitive, and we'll talk about that more. So, Audra, welcome. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, and I really can't wait to get into the conversation, talking about what you do and how you got into this work, and then what your goal is with it. But before we even get there, I don't know if you wouldn't mind recounting how we met. I think that's kind of a cool story.
Oh, okay. So, where I live, we don't have these expos that you've been to a few of them. I've been to them. I've never, I guess, worked at one. So I was kind of catty cornered to you, and I was setting up. This was the first time me doing this publicly, so it was kind of, my nerves were up high, and I was actually nervous I couldn't sense anything. So then you and your wife were setting up next door, and right next to us, and I'm like, I could just feel it. And this is what baffles me, why you can't feel this, but I just felt it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then my humanness kicked in. I'm like, oh, he wrote a book. Oh, what's it about? Because I'm always skeptical, so I always play skeptic first, and then kind of just combine the info there a little bit with what comes through. And I'm like, so I'm looking, and I picked it up, and I didn't even have to read it, and I just heard truth, divine truth, and I'm like, oh, and I could. I'm not really clairvoyant like how some clairvoyants are, that I can see outside of something looking at me like a spirit or something. It all comes through here. So through here, I just felt and seen that you were connected to oneness. And I'm like, there's no way that this guy's... So I had to ask, and as soon as you spoke, I felt it. And I'm like, you are, and like I said, it just baffles me that you don't know, and I keep, that's a lot. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about that, like how do you feel, and you say you do a lot of meditating, but I mean, anyway, so I just knew when I saw you, and I thought it was the most interesting thing, and I had to talk to you, and the more you spoke and about what you're doing and how you came, I'm like, oh yeah, you got it, you're it.
No, I certainly do appreciate that, and I did tell you before we started recording that after you came and introduced yourself and sort of told me that you got that feeling, which like I said, that's what I can't perceive. I don't have that perception yet to be able to feel or hear guides speaking, to which I would like to ask you about that. But at 3 other Body Lab expos, I've had 2 other people basically say the same thing unsolicited, which I find fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, that they can see that. But I mean, when I look in the mirror, I don't see anything. If I try to listen, I don't hear anything. If I'm meditating, I'm usually, you're usually hearing your voice and then trying to quiet that. So that's my experience. Even though
And you don't, yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, when you meditate, I mean, do you feel like information, or just, I don't know how to explain it, because I feel everything through vibration and frequency, but for some people it'll either come through as a thought or a feeling, or just feel like there's pressure coming into their head when they're meditating and about to get a lot of information. You've never had that feeling?
I have. So my awakening experience was certainly all of that. That happened last year, August 21st, 2018. It was a Tuesday morning. I'd been, meditating for about 4 years up to that point. I get up one morning to meditate, and actually, I didn't get up to meditate. When I woke up, I was instantly kind of told to go and meditate. Right? I had that feeling, right? It was just a go meditate right now. Don't pass go, don't go brush your teeth, don't do anything. Just get out of bed and go meditate. And when I went to do that, that's when I had the awakening, and it really felt like, I don't know if you're familiar with Kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. My spine, I had the energetic burst at the base of my spine, and then 3 successive waves of energy move up right to my crown chakra. And with every wave and with every movement of energy, I remembered. I just remembered who and why I was. And then throughout that week, more information kept coming in. I was channeling, and my dreams were super vivid, and I had just kept having these really weird otherworldly experiences. And it's all that information within that week that is in my book, basically, like, oh, this is who we are, this is why we're here. And that's happened. Beyond that, I've had multiple just bizarre experiences with meditating, and also with my dreams, going out of body. I've had that, astral travels. I've been to some very interesting places that I have no idea. I've interacted with some very interesting beings. So I have had those experiences, but with following my awakening and writing the book, I also wanted to learn something that I could actually use to work with clients. So that we have the intuitive work. So I wanted to become a little more intuitive. With meditating on myself and my body, I know that I can feel that. I can feel energy moving, or like you said, pressure on your head. That is legitimate. I can certainly feel that. But I went ahead and got my Reiki certification. And that was a very interesting process too. I got it through Shar Young. But what I learned in Reiki was, in my meditating practices, I was performing self-Reiki healing, but I didn't know that I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was basically, okay, you're already doing this, you already know, so now you can kind of make sense of it. And then, of course, get the symbols that you can use, which I didn't know the symbols, but I was doing a lot of the same things, like dry baiting and feeling. And then lately, I have been able to, if I'm deep in meditation, like Qigong, I can feel, I can really move energy, like I can feel it around me. But it's all self. It's other than Reiki or listening to helping people meditate, I don't know how else I can interact with people or connect with your guides, like kind of like how I understand you work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my current perspective with the awakening. And the biggest thing has just been the knowledge of, oh, okay, so that's who we are, and that's why we're here. And then there are an infinite number of ways we can experience each other. And yeah.
That's awesome. But that also tells me a lot about kind of how you are reading information right now too. So, and that tells me that you're feeling through your body, which is great, because that will help you lead to reading the frequencies more easier. So if you can move the energy and feel the energy, you're more connected to your body than what you are, which is really great. And that probably explains why this awakening hasn't been, for some people, it's very traumatic and it's a lot for them to go through. But for you, it sounds like a much smoother experience than most. So,
you're absolutely right, Audra. Mine has been, for what I've read and heard about with people having like a Kundalini or a spiritual awakening and how disruptive that can be to their perception of life or reality, it can be scary to where some people don't even want that to happen.
Right. And well, I've met people who've actually tried to work the Kundalini all the way up when they've been told by their own guides that you have to release these beliefs to let that rise all the way happen. And if they put themselves through a lot of pain because they want that energy and that information, but not to break up those belief systems. So that also tells me too that you've come in, this isn't your first awakening. You were probably born with just a very open thought process, or just that a willing to accept information to feel if it's true or not, which is awesome. And this sounds like it's more a second awakening than anything, which is awesome. But that's really cool for you. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. And now the challenge is at least in my perspective, is trying to incorporate that knowledge and then be comfortable with it, because it's drastic, right? It's when you wake up to that realization and you basically become aware that a lot of what you've believed, a lot of your foundational, character that you've been playing is based on not necessarily lies, but illusions that you can change just instantly. And then when you realize that the possibilities are infinite with what you can really do, it kind of gets tough to narrow it down to say, okay, this is really what I want to do, and then just focus, because sooner or later you don't want something that you're going to get sort of disenchanted with and then have to start all over.
Right, but that's why we also remember that we are who we are, which is light and ever changing and ever evolving and ever creating. So therefore, like you said, don't focus on one thing. We can do any and all at one time if we want to. And that's why I think it's so funny people believe in modalities, because if they would understand where modalities came from and how they came to be, and that they were meant to be broken and recreated all over again, they wouldn't hold it so, I guess, sacred. Because, I mean, it's sacred for you at the time until you learn what we are, and then you can create it to be something else. It's not something to hold on forever. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. But so that's kind of a snippet of my story. What about you, Audra? I'm super fascinated by yours. I was able at the Body Lab Expo to kind of peek and watch you work with clients, and I found it fascinating. Like, there's a little bit of envy there. Like, oh, I wish I could sit and connect with a client so I kind of tell them what I'm getting, and sort of feel it. So can you just tell us how you learned about this skill of yours and then got into it, and then maybe later we can talk about how you actually feel or connect, and then and then what your goals are with this. So we can start with how it began.
Okay, it didn't begin as easy as yours. So I'm kind of envious that you have such a smooth transition like you have. So, but for me, I've kind of always been awake. Ever since I was little, I could remember just feeling this in my heart, this light, this, I don't know, this sense of unconditional love that is kind of even hard to define here on earth. And when my family would take me to church and stuff, I had a hard problem hearing the things that I was hearing, because it didn't feel like a whole truth. It didn't feel whole to me. And I remember being little and asking, why would God hurt anybody? Why would, and I would question. I've always, my dad taught me to question everything all the time, which has been my best tool ever. Not to question as a skeptic, but just question to get the information that I'm asking for. So when I ask and question myself, I simply heard in my heart that, why would God hurt anybody? Why, do you truly think that? And I said, no, I don't feel, and I just knew that wasn't right, because I knew that God was love, and deep down, I just knew that we were God. But that was the easy part. The hard part was accepting me on a physical level, because I came in and I had sight and I had feeling where I could read anything pretty much with my hands, and people's physical bodies with my hands, like they had illnesses or they had or their energy or whatever. But growing up and not understanding what's going on and not having anyone explain to you what's going on can be very scary. So I thought I was crazy. So I would try to shut it down. And use things to help me not see things. And one time I remember saying, I don't want to see this anymore, because the words on my book I was reading, little heads were coming out trying to talk to me. I only learned later they were just spirit guides and, all my aspects trying to talk to me. So I shut it all down, and I said, I can't trust anything but my own thoughts. So then I internalized and I connected to my thoughts, and I could feel what was true and what was not. And that was another gift I had, that feeling of, I think you're lying, or I think you're not lying. So I had that, and that's all I decided to hold on to. But that gift of clear knowing kind of expanded, because I didn't want to use all my others. So when I did that, I also kind of amped up my empathy at the same time, which helps me read frequency of everything and not feel it so intensely. So I don't have to see it, so it's kind of like constantly, actually one of my aspects was telling me earlier about it. It's kind of like, is it coding, where the ones and the zeros on a computer? It's all the information, it's just super fast, and it's kind of like that, but it's an invisible feeling. It's an invisible feeling, and it's an invisible thought, and it just comes. When I try to teach people how to connect with themselves, it comes towards the back in the middle part of your brain. It doesn't come where your more conscious thoughts are in the forefront of your brain. So over years, I just learned to connect with that, and then it took a lot of time learning how to trust that, because we're growing up in a world who's just now going through a spiritual awakening itself, and people are trying to learn to trust other people with these experiences that they're having. So it's growing all over. So that's kind of how I communicate. I just read everything on a frequency level, and then when I get in a flow of information, my body will relax a little bit more, and then my clear sight will activate a little bit more, and my other gifts will activate more, and I can tap into better. So it's kind of me getting in my own way when it comes to my other gifts. I've made that block and that fear, and it's my own doing, and it'll take time to get undone, but I love my clear knowing better, and it helps me read and connect with who you are on a soul level, all of your aspects, your higher self, whatever aspect comes from another planet, another solar system. I've connected with oneness. I'm very connected with source, especially in oneness. And it just helps me be able to read all that. Now, I might not get a name right off the bat, but I can feel the frequency, how they're connected to you. And then it just kind of comes in bit by bit as I'm talking with you, because at the same time, your voice is also a frequency. And as you speak, you're also giving me information with your physical energy in this reality, and your soul's energy, and with your actual voice. So with all those combined, I'm reading all of that, and that's all kind of going in my brain like a transmuter, and sorting the information, and whoever is trying to speak through you is coming through me in that sense. So then I'll be telling you about someone, and you're kind of feeling like you know who it is, but it's not until halfway through the conversation it gets to me, oh, it's your grandma, or it's, you from this planet when you of this certain species that was looking like this and acts like this, and this was your purpose then. So, and to me that's fun, but it's also frustrating, because it's hard to sit with people sometimes because they have certain expectations, like I want to talk to a family member or know a past life, but and that goes into why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing. My purpose is to help you connect to yourself on a soul level, because the ones who want to be awakened and want to work towards their gifts, or just however they want to explore this path, the most important thing is to connect with yourself on a soul level. And when you connect with yourself then, and it's the 4-body process I like to talk about. It's not really a process, more of it is a thing. So you have your soul body, your physical body, your spiritual body, and spiritual, physical, emotional, and egoic bodies. And your
Audra,
spiritual, yeah.
Sorry, before we get to the 4 bodies,
Okay.
you said a lot that it'll be nice if we just kind of cleaned up some of it for understanding, especially for me too. And by the way,
Definitely. Just slow me down at any time.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt your flow there. Before we get to the 4 bodies, one of the things I wanted to kind of mention and ask is, I found it to be very common for souls like yourself who incarnate with this innate gifts already of some sort of voyance, either clair or clairvoyance, that they kind of shut it down as a kid. And you talked about growing up in a religious setting, and then maybe that was not super comfortable for you, or there were some answers that the religion was generating for you, or questions the religion was generating for you that you didn't quite answer, or you didn't quite get the answers for. But with shutting it down, was that something where you tried to reach out to family members and friends to say, okay, this is what's happening to me, is this normal? And then they were like, no, did you get influence from outside to shut it down, or was that all internal?
Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of both, because I also had another problem going on. I don't want to call it a problem. I had another issue going on as well with that whole soul connection. It made it very difficult growing up talking to people, because your soul would talk to me, and you could be on a soul level awesome. I mean, the most beautiful person you're describing. Oh yeah, I do this and I'm this and I'm this. You seem wonderful. And then, but if I talk to you physical, and especially if you're not connected to your physical body, you could be an asshole. I mean, so it was very disheartening, and that caused trouble too. I wanted to mention that. But as for my family, my grandmother had gifts and my mother didn't. But my mom and my grandma were close. So I always thought it was weird how my mom would shut me down and tell me I'm crazy or I should be practicing witchcraft. But she knew of her mother's gifts and were okay with them, And my dad's side was very gifted as well. But they didn't try to shut me down. They just said, I just need to pay attention to what's here and now. And I think my best supporter was my grandma would play games with me to help me develop it. But, grandmas are busy too, so I didn't get to play with her as much as I'd like. And my dad would help me to ask questions, always question everything. So, but besides that, I did internalize a lot of it, because when you see these things, you don't want people to think you're crazy. You don't want, and I lived in a very country setting, so it was hillbillies and very Christian people. And if, they already think you're, the oddball out, you don't want to give them any more reason to think you are. So,
I can, let me not say I can relate, but I certainly can appreciate, because I've heard that to be the case. Even after I had my awakening, and the entire week I was on this high, trying to tell people what had happened. And I got some, Roland, I know you're a pharmacist. Are you taking the drugs, or what's going on? What are you talking about? And that was just for 1 or 2 weeks straight. And then, ever since then, I've gotten a lot better at sort of understanding who's ready for this information and how to relay it to them. But at the beginning, even my wife, she thought, man, boy, check yourself. Another cool thing, Audra, is the teaching piece. So did you have a dedicated teacher, or was a lot of this self-taught?
Well, a lot of it was me trying to figure it out, because I had just a lot of what I consider at the time crazy talking to me. But when I started accepting that I was an empath at first, I was doing a lot of self-studying. But I had a very good teacher, Pamela Ireland and Samantha Oren, who helped me kind of remember who I am. And that's what I always tell her. I always say, I'm thankful that you helped me remember who I am, because that's what it is for me. Because I took some of her classes, and it was just like the information was already there. I was like, paying how much for this class? And because it made me I'd get so frustrated, because I'm like, yeah, I want to learn how to channel, because my brain and all that I am saying that I need to learn how to do this. And so I paid for the class, and as she's teaching it, it's like, bam, 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 like flash of information. And I'm like, I already know this. I remember knowing this. I'm like, I don't need to sit in the rest of the class. I'll sit and listen to it and absorb the information. And then I sat and asked her, I'm like, why is this going on? Like, she's like, because you're ready to remember who you are. You're ready to reconnect with yourself. And my voice is like an activator for you. And it's kind of flipping on your switch. And I'm thinking to and I don't mean any disrespect to Pamela in any way, but I thought to myself, I'm like, I paid for this class. How much just to remember? But at the same time, I'm totally grateful, because her classes also just help me validate the information I've been getting, and doesn't make me seem as crazy. And her voice just felt very at peace and divine to me, so I knew that I was right where I needed to be to remember who I was in a safe place. Yeah. So I always encourage someone, if you are unsure trying to go down this journey, and you feel like you need, go find you a teacher, find someone that makes you feel safe and comfortable. And the moment that you don't feel safe, of course, leave. But because, your resonance with someone will always change. But I've always adored this teacher, both of them, very much, and they've made me very comfortable with who I am. And that's what I needed to have in order to start doing what I'm doing now.
Oh, that's awesome. And it kind of reminds me of that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And you're going there as a student, but you're basically ready to practice. And like she said, she's literally just flipping the switch on for you.
Yeah.
You had all the wires connected, you had the electricity flowing, but you just needed to flip the switch, and that was her role for you. And I'm glad that was the case. Now, again, while you were talking about, sort of your getting into this path, you mentioned feeling frequencies. What can you what's that like? Is that like goosebumps going through your body, or?
I wish I could describe that, because I've heard people talk about feeling goosebumps, which every so often I will get, but it's not. And it's so hard to describe. It's an invisible feeling. It's not like if someone was touching me or I got goosebumps, but it's like I could feel the energy come into my body, or pass through my body, or come in through my crown chakra. And it's nothing that I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I just feel like an antenna with kind of these frequencies and these radio waves that just go by, and as soon as my body catches it, it just processes the information. And I know that my body has to process the information, because in that frequency holds, just so much information. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's actually an important piece of the work you do, is being able to process the information and then translate it into words that the client you're working with can understand, which is a huge, it's a huge piece. It's a very significant piece of what you do. And my question was, how did you get comfortable with picking up frequencies and then translating that into sort of words, right? Because that's something I'm asking, because that's something that I'm currently struggling with, to where when I meditate, I will get the goosebumps, I will feel the energy moving throughout my body, and a lot of times in trying to interpret what the movement meant, or the dream, or the metaphors, I end up playing basically games with myself. Is this what it means? Oh, it could be this. It could be this. It could be this. So how did you get to that point? Or what would you recommend, I guess, for anyone listening who's kind of in the same boat?
So it depends on how you're receiving the information, first off. So, but if you want to, most very empathic or sensitive empathic people already are doing this. They're just feeling on a more physical level and not on the vibrational level. So what I like to do is remind me that my brain is the translator, which in a sense it is, both on a physical and etheric level, because Your crown chakra's up here. That's where all your divine information comes from. Your physical third eye is here, and your etherical third eye is here as well. So they play a part in translating this information, these invisible energies and frequencies that we get. And mine was kind of like a lifelong learning block, because when I just couldn't trust all these other gifts, and I said I wanted everything to come through here, I'm also very stubborn and very, I guess I would throw a tantrum with my guys. Yes. So I would say, unless it's a neon sign and it says it plain as day or comes clear as day in here, I'm not going to accept it, and I'm not going to do anything with it because I don't understand it. So therefore it's not worth anything to me. So they had no choice but to try to find a way where I could understand. And I do not like to be separate from my body, because I believe that we're here to have this human experience amongst all the other experiences. So don't kick me out of my body and come and do that. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present, and I want to know what's coming through my brain hole and what you're trying to share. And if I don't understand it, I'm not going to share it. And I've had people argue with me when stuff comes through, you need to just blurt it out. Yes, but it depends on, that's a whole other conversation, but it depends on who, what, and what's coming through, and how connected the person is to their soul to understand that information to begin with, because your aspects may not be as clever as you, or vice versa. So there's that. And so I'm very demanding in that way, I guess. And it took years to be, this is how I want it. And this is the only way I can understand it. And if I don't understand it, I'm not going to share it. But but I also learned from my teacher, Pamela, breathing techniques to help breathe in that energy, because what she also teaches and resonates with me very well is that our bodies are a conduit. We are this vessel in a sense. So all this energy is around us. Use your body, breathe it in, and just imagine you're breathing in that information. She's got different techniques, and I've even modified it a little bit, but it's basically a deep breath through your third eye and through your nose, and you breathe into your stomach, and a nice slow meditative breath, and then you just feel all that energy kind of come in, and then you release it. And you could just feel that energy and that information come in there, and with that intention that your brain is the translator of this information, and that's where you want your information to go to be translated, then it kind of, with practice, it works. I'm sure I can probably detail it better, but that's kind of what I do.
Man, that was awesome. Again, guys, I'm talking with Audra Baker. She's a spiritual coach based out of Dickinson, North Dakota. She does readings and connects you with multiple aspects of who you are, different parts of your soul and your being, which is what we're going to talk about next. So connect with her and then do a reading. I haven't had a reading done yet, but she was able to tell that I was connected to source, which I found super fascinating. Right? I didn't know what she was looking at or seeing, but she was the first one to tell me at the Body Lab Expo, and we just connected, struck up a conversation, and she's an amazing soul, definitely gifted, and we're going to keep talking. She's going to tell us about our 4 bodies and how she works with them. So,
okay. So your 4 bodies, it's my teacher Samantha introduced that to me. I was actually, when I was working on my spiritual path and learning to connect with myself better, both learning from Pamela and her, I was having an issue. I seemed to be getting in my way a lot. And she's like, well, have you connected with your ego? And I'm like, connecting with your ego is bad, and I still had that modality in my head of that. So she had to set me straight the way that Samantha does. I love her. And she said, no, you have 4 bodies. You have your spiritual body, your physical body, your spiritual, physical, emotional, and egoic body. She says your spiritual body is your soul, your essence, who you are. The other 3 are the things we get to play with here. But they're vital tools to your soul and how to connect with it here. So I could go on an all-day lecture about them, but I'm going to try to minimize it. So the toys that we get that are these 3 other bodies are what I find are a very important key to connecting with your soul. And when you connect with your soul and have that open line of communication. You can channel, you can connect to your gifts better. To me, anyways, and the clients that I've worked with, that I work with this process, have better and stronger connections to the information that they're getting, and they feel more validation in the information that they're getting. And it's because you're connecting to you all. So let me start with this. We are on Earth, this beautiful reality we all created to have this experience. And in this experience called Earth, we created duality. So everything's a black or a white, yes or a no. So on top of that, we get time to play with. And these three bodies. And these three bodies are quite interesting because you have your physical body that feels and senses and do all the things that it does. You have your emotional body, which is pretty self-explanatory, and your egoic body, which is both can be a positive and a negative thing, and it can both be an enabling thing as well, and a motivator. So your ego has way more purposes than what anybody could imagine. But with saying that, those three bodies will intertwine and work with each other to both help you grow on a soul level and have this earthly experience to its max for you, however you want to experience it. But at the same time, when we kind of go into self-doubt and have trauma and these things, these three bodies will produce programs and safety protocols to help you from experiencing that trauma again. But at the same time, over time, they can hinder your growth with those same programs that they've created for themselves. So that's why you kind of come across, or any life coach or spiritual teacher will notice people coming into these awakenings and having this hard time dealing with themselves. Well, because those programs are starting to no longer serve them because they're growing out of them. They don't need to no longer survive. Now they can thrive, but they're still running. So soul is calling you to connect with it on a soul level, and your bodies to work through that, to look at it, love it, honor it, and let it go. And you'll get back to that more soul connection and be the best version of yourself. So that's what I see a lot in these awakenings too, is just those old programs wanting to quit. But at the same time, I encourage a lot of communication with these three bodies. Oh, I mean, all four of them, but just to get your gears going, these three bodies, because you start talking, everything is frequency, and I see everything in my mind as frequency. It's just in physical form. So you can talk to anything. I mean, literally anything. So when you start talking to your body, you can help cure yourself of things. And I'm not a doctor, put that out there, but you can help cure or help your body with certain things. And the reason why I don't like to say cure either is because it depends on your belief system modality. But if you have it in what some people believe they have as life contracts, that you have to experience a certain illness or a certain thing for a certain reason, you're going to experience that no matter what to grow or whatever it is for that. So that's why you always question everything. Same with your emotional and your egoic bodies, because they all work together for this experience. And I try to tell everybody, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. You have to ask the right questions and ask the right questions to the right things. Because in this reality, we have things, and these four bodies we have to interact with. But when you have that open line of communication, they will talk to you back, and you can have that conversation, work through all your stuff, and then realize the beautiful soul that you are to begin with. Because once you talk to these, it's so easy to talk to them. So, yeah.
Audra, that is so beautiful, man. And I'm I'm over here cheesing, because a lot of that I understand and I appreciate, and it came to a head for me after my awakening, right? How and how growing up, one of the biggest things I heard was the ego is so bad, we have to get rid of the ego. And no, you can't survive on Earth without an ego. Like, your ego enables you to experience life on Earth. It's part of your, like part of the character that you're playing, or characters that you're playing, and you can change it. And then you talked about your beliefs and your modalities. I think that's chapter 9 in my book. Like, your beliefs limit you, and you talk about you created those beliefs because you were trying to feel safe. And I mention all of these in my book in different ways. Maybe that's what your guides meant when they said you held my book and they were like, oh yeah, this is True.
They knew already. I'm like, okay.
But no, it is true, and it's beautiful. And what I found is the entire Earth life experience, which we do create with our fears and our beliefs and our desires, is our creation, and it's designed, like you said, to help us evolve and grow spiritually, because it's temporary, right? None of this is really real. Like, we can feel it and experience it, and it feels real, but I mean, if it didn't, then we would really not enjoy the experience.
Right.
But it's an environment where we can create and express and experience and feel. And once you wake up to that realization, it really does change your perspective of a lot of things, right? And duality is a big piece of it, which you mentioned. Oh, I was so. I remember when the week I want to say graduated, because it feels like a graduation. Like, oh, okay, I passed. I got my diploma. But that I had my awakening. I remember when I finally got duality. It was an odd experience. I was in my kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, I was in my kitchen, right, and I would go to work, try to talk to people. They'd say you're crazy. I'd come home, call my wife, talk to her, and then when I was done, the information was literally coming. It like a stream of consciousness, right? Just, I don't want to say downloading, but I was just remembering all this stuff that entire week. But on this day, I was talking about duality, and I go, oh, so that's what duality means, because everything is kind of yin yang, right?
Yep.
And what got me was love hate, and I was thinking about my wife, and how unlike me, which there's nothing wrong with this, and I don't mean to put it out there, she's more possessive. She'll get really jealous if I'm, which is normal. If you love somebody, right, you can see how you can eventually hate them so much because you love them so much.
Yep.
So that's where I started saying, but wait, you can love somebody so much that you hate them. And then I started to understand that love hate was basically the same energy but different spectrums of it, right? It's duality. There was not a clear demarcation for where love started. And then I started asking, if I really love you, why will I hinder you from experiencing what you like? So for instance, if you were married and you were said, I want to go skiing, and then I don't want to go with you, honey, right? Like, I want to go by myself. Now, if I really love you, do I let you do that, or do I get mad at you that you're doing it because I love you so much? I want to be with you, for instance, right? And these are the kind of thoughts I was having. And then I finally realized that not only love-hate was the same, but just about everything we experience there was a duality spectrum to it. And where each and every single one of us would put our pin on, okay, this is how or what love is, was super subjective, to the point where my expression of love could be your expression of, okay, it's not love, it's like. And then you could move that dial all the way down to hate. And then even more fascinating, Audra, was when I realized, depending on what I wanted to attain, like if I wanted to go after a goal really badly, then I could really give two F's about the spectrum. I would be neutral about anything. And I could think bad, but if I really wanted to do something, it was neither good nor bad. It was a means to an end.
Right. Isn't it funny how that's just kind of everywhere with that?
It is. And that's how I ended up with the understanding of, duality is what we play with, but in my theory, there is no absolute one or the other. I mean, it's like you don't know where the spectrum starts and ends unless you decide to create it. So if you believe something, yes, it keeps you safe, but it also severely limits you from growing. And it's up to you to change the to adjust. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. So what in your work then, how have you found your clients to react after a reading with you? Like, how have their lives changed um, for the better, or maybe the peace? I don't know.
Well, it depends on the client, because it's so very different. Because I'll have people who are just coming into awakening and questioning their entire belief system, and then I have people who are just having another awakening and furthering their growth, and then I have people who are acknowledging that they have certain gifts and they're wanting to either expand or grow on them. So it could be very different, I mean, all over the spectrum. And the thing is, like, they think they're going to sit down and talk to their higher selves, but it'll be either a past life or just an aspect of them that is really coming through in this life that's trying to help them have this experience for their growth, or in a certain way. So I have to explain it to them. And then I ask a lot of questions, because their soul's trying to say, well, they're trying to get through this, but they need to connect with this first to get them to here. And so but I also say, soul or aspects, you need to, quiet for a second, because I feel it's important to connect with the physical person, because the physical person, if they're not connected, and usually when they come to me, they're not connected to themselves. So they don't know what their soul and their aspects are trying to tell them, but they have a total perspective of what they think they're going through. And I try to gauge what they're going through, because they might not be ready for the information. And I totally honor spirit and what their soul's trying to tell them and where they want to go. But if someone is emotionally or in a state of mind that they're not ready to accept the information, or they need to come in a different way to be shared to them, I will argue with spirit and say, you need to find another way. Because I've met souls where the person is just a sweet and sensitive person, but their soul is beefy and just really direct, and let's just tell it how it is. And I'm like, I don't think she's going to be able to handle what you want to tell her directly. So I try to interpret it better for them to understand it better. And then when they're more comfortable, then I can be a little more a clear conduit and just blurt out what they want me to blurt out. But it can be all over what they're wanting to experience and what their soul's wanting them to experience. So but my main purpose, though, is to be able to help them connect to their soul, so they don't have to come back to me. Don't get me wrong, I love playing with people, but I know that's my purpose, is to help these people connect to themselves and listen to themselves and be able to do what I do, basically, which is just be able to make that connection to self, so you can go and have fun and you don't have to keep wondering and being lost. Because if you can connect to yourself, you're not going to be lost, and you're going to be able to connect to the information yourself.
I can absolutely relate to the last thing you just said, Audra, which is my go-to. Is I want to help people essentially remember who and why they are, so that once you do, then you see that you don't really need anything or anybody else, unless you're trying to collaborate for some sort of creative expression, essentially.
Right.
Especially the healing piece. I want to empower you to know that, man, this information is, or what everyone's trying to do, is basically within you. And barring what you said, which I also loved, barring your agreement of a life lesson with your soul, right? It's really, really imperative that you become self-empowered, or self-realized. And then when that happens, you really quickly start to see how you're impacting the world and the world's impacting you, how you're responding, and how you really don't need a lot of what you might have believed you needed to keep you from your fears. I love that. And that's why my go-to is meditation. At the expos, I also do Reiki, but I tell clients usually when I do it that, okay, I can help you here. We can have more sessions. But just like I do self-Reiki healing for myself, like you can do this too. And even even with meditating, like I know it's a healing practice, but my long-term goal is to be able to live life in every moment to the point where I don't need to like recenter myself at the end of the day or in the morning. Like,
Yes.
I don't know if that's possible, but to just go through life that you're always centered. That I
Right.
don't know. That
Well, and they also call it like frequency management too. And so, because if you hear like people talk about frequency management, it's the same thing. But see, but I also feel if you can connect to yourself, I don't have to manage my frequency as much because I just check in with myself, and that's why I love to give homework too. So I'll be like, I'll give you homework on you're going to start talking with one of your bodies or all your bodies. But essentially, my homework is you check in with your 4 bodies every day. When you get up, ask them, how are you doing, spirit? How are you doing, body, physical body? And you wait for them to respond in the way they want to respond to you. And that practice, it turns into, I don't want to say it, but like in a sense, a program to start teaching your physical brain, let's do this practice every day because that's helping you connect back to yourself. And if you put it in practice, it becomes more routine and easier to connect to yourself.
I like that. That's a simple tool. Someone might think you're crazy if they see you talking to yourself. Hey, if it helps you feel better and then be more productive and creative, then it might be worth it. So
yeah, definitely. And I will say this: your 4 bodies, they have a personality. I mean, they embody you, but they also definitely have their own sense of humor for sure. Because I've had some great conversations just with my physical body in the morning, and I'm like, I don't think I can make it, and it's the best relationship I have with anybody. And I mean I have a close relationship with my husband, but I am my best friend. My 4 bodies and me are just, if one of my girls are down, we're all down until we can put ourselves together and get where we need to go. So and that's why I like teaching that to people, because if you notice, and I know you know this, this reality, for some reason, people have to have modalities in order to do anything. And it's just a program in their head. They have to have some kind of process or modality, because I'm like, well, once I got it and I connect, I'm like, oh, I don't need that anymore. But I kept hearing, well, you need to keep practicing because you're going to be teaching it to everybody else, because everybody else has to have a program in order to connect. I'm like, that's sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it like you said, it is the design of Earth, those modalities. I call them in my book dinosaur beliefs, right? Like, yeah. I say, why would you subscribe to anybody, even if it's Aaron Rodgers with State Farm, come in and try to sell you, right, dinosaur insurance to protect you from the event that you're going to get, into some sort of trouble, or you get your stuff damaged because of dinosaur attacks or something. You would laugh. You would say, I don't need dinosaur insurance. And what happened to me when I had the experience, I awakened and I go, oh my goodness, half of these fears, more than half of them. In fact, a lot of them, I don't need them anymore. And so you start to program yourself to get rid of them. And, someone might tell you some sort of fear. You're like, man, that's not true. Like, it's not the case. And it does take work. Or you slip right back into it. And so
it does, definitely. Well, and and I'm going to go as far as saying this a little bit. It's connected to oneness and connected, to source and everything. You just know everything is a playground and how those things work. But I can't help but to still play. So I'll have clients that come to me who believe in, past lives and soul contracts and all these things, which, when I was reawakening, I grazed through those. I'm like, oh yeah, that resonates. And when I reconnected with source and realized these are all modalities for fun and experience and for soul's growth, there was both like a good thing and a bad thing that happened for me when that realization came. It came as, the bad thing is it doesn't make it as fun anymore. And I got a little sad. I'm like, I know that everything is here for play and experience, but it's, I pouted a little bit. But then at the same time, I know that within this reality and all the modalities and knowing what I know, I can jump in and play in all these other people's realities.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Because it's their experience. And it's so fun because I can get all the way in there and play like if it's totally real, and then still come out and be totally me. And it's so fun. fun.
Yes.
It's just so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, Audra. That's what I was alluding to at the beginning when I said, like, you realize there's an infinite number of things you could do, and then it gets tough to, yeah, kind of, okay, what do I want to do now? And then sort of go at it to the fullest, and then not get attached to the outcome. It's usually about the experience. Like, I want to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach to take to life. Even though it's hard, it takes work, and it takes being usually connected and present. Okay, I'm literally doing this because of this. You know, helping teach people how to experience consciousness, the myriad ways you can do this, right? You can have a show called Conversations with Roland. You can write a book, which is a true story. So after I wrote the book, I'm trying to get people to buy it. And usually when you're a new author and people don't know you, it's your friends and family members that buy your book.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't buy it and promote it or write reviews about it, no one, that's it, right? Your mom buys your book and then you're done.
Yeah.
And so I also knew I had to do press, but press can be really tough. Why would a newspaper or this person want to interview you? Okay, you're paying them to promote your book. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, man, I should go on shows and do interviews. But then who's going to want to interview? Like, you have to reach out. I don't have a publicist, and I'm working full time. And that's how I decided to create my own show. I'm not kidding. I said I should just have conversations with folks and then record it. Folks who have, very unique ways of viewing life or interacting with different aspects of consciousness like you do. And I'll call it Conversations with Roland, and then see what happens. And then I thought, in the middle of that, people can get to know me a little better. I can learn about new ways of creativity, and then talk about what we're both doing, and then that could be my avenue. So it's literally just like that, and that's how we've ended up creating the whole world. Is somebody having a desire to do something and see what comes out of it, and then with what we're currently experiencing as life on Earth. It's kind of simplified, but that's it.
It's amazing too, and I totally agree with you, because I see things. I mean, not even like on an awakening level, like even the regular, what I call normal human things, gaining this perspective, and I'm looking around and I see these people doing these different things. And before I thought, oh, they worked hard and did this and this. No, it was just a person saying, I'm going to roll the dice and see what happens. And I'm like, when I grasped that, I'm like, and it worked out? Yeah, but I didn't know it was going to work out. I just rolled the dice and went with it. I'm like, wow, just because they wanted to take a chance. They didn't know if it was going to win or fail or whatever, but that's fun. We have taken the fun out of life because of modalities and too constricting modalities and belief systems.
You're right.
Yeah.
Here, but it's slowly changing. I mean, I have been very surprised, but kind of expected to. Like, it's our soul evolution. So there are a lot more people waking up and exposing themselves to this knowledge. It's a lot more readily available, right? We have things like Lori Lasham's, she's doing SOS now, but Body Lab USA, where you can go and introduce different cities to just different ways of healing or experiencing life, or crystals, or readings, tarot cards, etc. And it's nice. I mean, if you're curious about it, go out and do it. If you're not, and you're comfortable where you are, no need to change. Literally.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
It depends on what experience you want to play in.
No kidding. Audra, we're right a little under an hour here, and I absolutely love talking with you. I don't know if you'd be okay coming back to record another conversation. I mean, there's something that we didn't even talk about. I think you also do house energetic cleansing.
Yep, that goes back into going into other people's modalities and belief systems, which is really fun because, you know, when you believe, it baffles me and it excites me. But yeah, I do that too. And it's neat to connect with the energies that are there and what people think that are there and that are really not there and what is really there. So it's nice talking to all that information and seeing, you know, what's going on and help to do that too. And that's definitely a whole other conversation, and definitely got to have more conversations, because I would love to talk about how everybody thinks that the other side knows everything when they're really experiencing and learning too, as they're perceiving and helping us on this side. So that's a conversation we need to have too. We will just shake some stuff up with that one.
Yes. No, yes. No, that's definitely setting up for our second conversation. Those are two big topics that we could touch on, and I can't wait to have you back. Audra, you're so amazing. Thanks for continuing to do the work that you're doing. Yeah, it's amazing, and I was really touched by your comments, and I connected when we met in Dickinson, and I thought, what the heck is she seeing? But I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on, and thanking you for just being, you know, this awesome person who's holding this space for people to come in and connect. That is amazing work. It is.
I appreciate it. Guys, you can connect with Audra again on her Facebook page. I would encourage you to connect and then book a session with her. I think they're about $40 an hour. You can do it over Facebook, video, the phone. If you're in the Dickinson, North Dakota area, you can definitely do it in person. And I'll have a link to her Facebook page below here. Guys, yours truly, Roland. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Twitter and Instagram at awake_RA, Facebook at meditation_RA. If you join my mailing list, you get a free 43+ page meditation guide that I created, because that's how I ended up with this information, was through meditating. So I'm giving that away for free. And then don't forget to get your hands on a copy of Who and Why You Are, which Audra is reading and she's enjoying, right?
It's very awesome, and it is easy to understand, so everybody has to read it.
No kidding. Yep, that's available through my website, Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and the Nook. And as always, thank you so much, Audra. You're so amazing. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Yeah, we need you.
But don't stop what you're doing either. You're awesome and you're amazing.
Thank you.